Hey everybody, welcome to another bonus episode of Molecast. I am Mole. Welcome to Monday or Tuesday, depending on where you're listening to this from. And wow, we have made it to the end of the Nobel Prize week with today's award in the Nobel Prize in Economics. And if you've been listening to the episodes from the beginning, I've been saying that, the Nobel Committee has been following this trend of, the theme of 2020. And when I originally saw the awardees and the topic that was being awarded for the prize in economics, I thought, oh man, yes! But then, lo and behold, we are back into the never-ending saga, which is 2020. So I'll get into more on that a little bit later. So let me first give some background on what the prize in economics is. It's a prize that was actually established in 1968 by a donation from Sweden's central bank to the Nobel Foundation to commemorate the bank's 300th anniversary. So it technically isn't a Nobel Prize, since it wasn't listed in Alfred Nobel's will, but it is administered and referred to along with the other Nobel Prizes. So it goes through the exact same process as the other prizes do, and it also receives an award at the same ceremony. So instead of the prize being called the Nobel Prize in Economics, it's actually called the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economics, or it has a longer name, which I cannot pronounce, and I'm not going to attempt to pronounce because we'll be here all night, and it's only like a 20-30 minute episode. So we're just going to refer to it as the Nobel Memorial Prize. So this year's prize was awarded to Drs. Paul Milgrom and Dr. Robert Wilson, both of Stanford University. Dr. Milgrom is a professor at Stanford. Dr. Wilson is an emeritus professor, which means he's retired, but he got to keep his his title of being a professor. And they're both from Stanford. And these economic researchers study how auctions work. So you might be familiar with auctions such as eBay or maybe Terrestrial auctions if you follow the fine instrument circuit. Those nice Strads and Guarneris, they usually go up to auction. But their method is looking at goods and services that are more large or unique, such as radio frequencies or mass amounts of equipment. And what these researchers do is they design new auction formats that are difficult to sell in a traditional way. And the benefit of their research helps not only buyers and sellers, but it also helps taxpayers. So I'm going to get into some of the more nitty-gritty details on how their research is able to help society at large. So let me give some more description about auction theory. So first, let's think of an auction. When I think of the word auction, I think eBay. I think cutthroat when I see 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds. I'm like, all right, $10 more, I win. Well, that's one way to think of an auction. But another way to think of an auction is that it's thought as a game with incomplete information, because in the vast majority of auctions, one party will possess information related to the transaction that the other party doesn't know. So for example, if I was selling a nice, beautiful Strad, and I knew that the price of my Strad was $10 million, but you didn't know that, that's what's considered an auction. Auctions are not only used to sell goods such as, Strads or, fine teacups or shoes, not saying the things that I recently bought on eBay, but they're also used. They're also used to sell things such as securities, minerals, and energy. And using auction theory, researchers are able to try to understand the outcomes of different rules for bidding and final prices. And you would think that this kind of research would be pretty self-explanatory, right? If you have something that's high in demand, you're going to be able to command a higher price for it. But the analysis is actually really difficult because bidders behave strategically in these situations, because a bidder takes into consideration both what they know themselves from prior information, your good old Google stalking, you do all of your research, you go on DuckDuckGoose, you ask your friends and your neighbors, hey, how much did you get for those shoes? And then they also take into consideration what they believe the other bidders know. So if you go into an auction situation, you're like, look, I've done my homework. I've researched all the websites. I talked to my friends, went on DuckDuckGoose, went on all these other websites, and you believe that the other bidders don't know as much as you do. You're going to bid in a different way versus someone who goes in maybe not doing as much research and believing that the bidders know more than you do. So there's many different combinations of this thought process that they have to take into consideration. So Dr. Wilson, who was born in Geneva, Nebraska, actually got his first exposures to auctions by watching cattle auctions as a boy. And I thought, oh, wow, that's really interesting. Things that you were exposed to as a child, you continued, you're able to take that basic interest and go into a field that, I never heard of economics research before, but it's actually pretty fascinating. So what Dr. Wilson did was he developed the theory for auctions of objects with a common value. And a common value isn't where everything's the same price. It's not like everything's like $1, like when you go to the dollar store. It's it's actually the value that is unknown before you go into the bid. But in the end, it's the same for everyone. So, for example, some of the research I did described it as the volume of minerals in an area. So let's say you came into Chicago and you're looking for the volume of hot dogs, because that's like one of the few things that Chicago is known for is hot dogs and crippling cold. So if you go into the area, you don't know how many hot dogs are in that area. But in the end, it's going to end up being the same for everyone, because the price, because you don't want to exceed the value of the item. Otherwise, they wouldn't pay you to actually get that item. So Wilson showed why rational bidders tend to bid below their own best estimate. So going back to the hot dog analogy, or even the Strad analogy, when you buy an item like a Strad, you know that the Strad is worth, in your mind, $10 million. But when you're bidding, you're worried about something called the winner's curse. And no, it's not a witch that comes and curses you and your family for years to come. It's actually the buyer fearing that they're going to pay too much, but they're not going to get the quality that they paid for. And I was like, wow, there's actually a name for that. I always thought it was called buyer's remorse, but in the economics world, they call it the winner's curse. I like that name a lot better. So then what Dr. Paul Milgrom did was he took Wilson's original theory and he made it more general so that it not only considered common values, but also private values between two bidders. So what he did was he analyzed bidding strategies in a number of well-known auction formats. So there are 4 or 5 different auction formats. And what he did was he demonstrated that a format will give a seller higher than expected revenue when bidders learn more about each other's estimated values during bidding. So what happens is, it's kind of like the eBay strategy. When you know each other's value, so if myself and a friend both knew that we valued the Strad at $10 million, we're going to bid more than if I didn't know that my friend knew that the Strad was worth $10 million. I would bid less. So what happens is that the seller will end up gaining more money from that auction because both bidders know each other's value, which is really interesting. So how does their theories apply to real life? Because all this theory sounds interesting and all, but where do we see it actually being applied? Well, in 1994, the United States authorities used Dr. Milgrom and Dr. Wilson's auction formats to sell radio frequencies to telecom operators. And they were so successful that other countries then followed suit, buying and selling other services to private companies. And then here we come into 2020. So, as you know, we have been continuing with the theme of 2020 during the entirety of Nobel Prize week. Monday was hepatitis C virus. I think we're dealing with some sort of virus right now. Tuesday was black holes. We're in a perpetual black hole. Wednesday was CRISPR. There is now a rapid COVID test that is currently trying to be mass produced in order to test for coronavirus cases. Thursday was the Literature Prize, and the author was best known for writing bleak and dark material. Friday was the Nobel Peace Prize, where we know that coronavirus has spiked world hunger considerably. So, how does the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economics fit into the 2020 narrative? So, the methodology that Dr. Milgrom and Dr. Wilson created is important because it prevents the cost of the item from outweighing the benefits. And in the United States and in other governments, hospitals and the government are trying to get personal protective equipment during a pandemic. And using this theory that Dr. Wilson and Dr. Milgrom created, this prevents competition with each other within states, between the hospital and the government, and between countries, thus driving up the price because of the amount of demand for that item. Using this methodology, it can help cut costs and help to make sure that the price of the item doesn't outweigh the benefits of having that item. Because if an item costs too much, then governments, hospitals, and individuals will simply do without because the cost is too great. So that is our 2020 connection for this podcast. Don't worry, we did it. I also read too that their work is responsible for a big part in setting the price of many everyday goods and services due to the fact that, again, this method of auctioning allows countries and companies to gain services and materials at a reasonable cost in order to sell to the general public. So, fun fact, as always, neither economist picked up their cell phone this morning. The Nobel Committee had to end up calling Dr. Wilson's wife on her cell phone at 2:15 a.m. local time. And then Dr. Wilson had to walk next door and knock on the door to tell Dr. Milgrom that they won the Nobel Memorial Prize. If that isn't friendship, I don't know what is. I want a friend and a spouse like that. That is what I aspire to have in my life. That I will have a spouse that will answer the phone at 2:15 in the morning for me, and then I would have a friend that would walk over and knock on the door and tell me, congratulations, we won the Nobel Prize together, buddy. And also I did check, there was nothing, as of the time of this podcast, I did not see anything from Stanford University that stated that either Wilson or Milgrom would obtain a free parking space. Chances are they probably will. It is Stanford. Hopefully they will. As we have learned, it's not the Nobel Prize, it's all about the parking space. But each researcher will win. Both researchers won $1.1 million, which will be split between the two of them. And Dr. Wilson did say that, quote, "I have no use for this money during a pandemic. I will probably save it for my wife and children," which I thought was incredibly wholesome and sweet. And with that, that is the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economics and the end of the Nobel Prize week. Wow. This has been a marathon, to say the least, of prizes and information. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed these bonus episodes of Molecast this week and Monday. I've certainly enjoyed doing the research for them, learning and improving my thumbnail skills. I'm not gonna lie, it definitely was a marathon, but I did enjoy gathering these small facts for you, and just having a space where we can chat about things that we're interested in. Great. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. The next main episode of Molecast will be on Sunday, November 1st, following the masterclass that will be on the Ray Chen violin server, hosted by me, on public speaking. Hopefully y'all can attend and stay around the server to find out more details on those times, either here or in the science server. And with that, thank you guys so much for listening, and have a great rest of your day. Bye!